So let's get into the next thing. Let's get into Chris Paul, man. So Chris Paul has announced his retirement. So yes. Chris Paul has announced that next NBA season will be his final NBA season. Chris Paul will be officially retiring after, I believe, 22 years. So here it is. So former San Antonio Spurs guard Chris Paul made a big announcement on his career trajectory in a recent interview. Since he joined the NBA in 2005, Paul's grandmother, who he only refers to as Granny, hasn't missed watching a single one of his games. She'll text him once the NBA final buzzer sounds and often give him a call. And Chris Paul, if y'all don't know, is super close with his grandparents, man. So Chris Paul, I believe his grandfather, and this is like a legendary story, CP3 grandfather, he was in high school. Chris Paul grandfather. So his father passed away when he was 61 years old. So in high school, this is a legendary story. Chris Paul, in his high school game, scored 61 points to commemorate his grandfather's legacy and his memory. And then as soon as he scored 61, he subbed himself out the game and he just started crying, bro. Just was super, super emotional. But he scored that 61 points for his grandpa to be able to commemorate him in that high school game. And this story made me love Chris Paul, bro. Like the fact that you do that in the game, and he could have obviously scored more. He could have probably went for 70 or 80, but as soon as he got that 61, he left the game and just started bawling his eyes out on the bench to commemorate his grandfather. So yeah, all of that to say, Chris Paul is extremely close with his grandparents. The fact that he calls his grandma after every single game is pretty dope as well too. But this is the interview right here. This is a breaking. I think he was talking to Jamel Hill. I believe is her name, Jamel Hill. We're going to listen to it right here.
Know you are playing at a high level, that you're in the twilight of your NBA career.
Yeah.
So how much longer do you intend to play?
At the most, a year. I just finished my 20th season, which is a blessing in itself.
Know you are playing at a high level, that you're in the twilight of your NBA career.
Yeah.
So how much longer do you intend to play?
At the most, a year. I just finished my 20th season, which is a blessing in itself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, Chris Paul, talking to Jamel Hill, announces this upcoming NBA season will be his final NBA season. So that's going to put a career, I think it's 22 years that he's been there. But this is his quote, man. He says, "I love to play basketball, but I love my kids and my family more," Paul said. And that's going to weigh a huge part in my decision on what happens next year. A year from now, it's all but official. Straight up. So he said his 2025-2026 campaign will be his last, almost a year. And Chris Paul right now is a free agent. I believe he signed a 1-year contract with the San Antonio Spurs. But right now, he doesn't really have a team. From what I understand and from what the rumors are saying, is that he still wants to be a starter, which is probably one of the reasons why he's having a hard time finding a new team. Chris Paul, I think, at this point in his career, is best as a mentor. And obviously, you're old, you're a little bit stuck in your ways. Obviously, you want to do what you want to do. And Chris Paul obviously still can play in terms of mindset and in terms of understanding of the game and the intelligence, the basketball IQ. Chris Paul is obviously one of the best ever. This guy is literally a coach on the court. So I can see why he still wants to be able to play. But I think at this point in his career, Chris Paul is better suited to be able to mentor and kind of coach these young guys, kind of like what he did with SGA. Like part of the reason why SGA made that jump and is so good and got so good as he did right now is because of this time when Chris Paul was in OKC. Chris Paul in OKC helped SGA develop a lot. And that's why you would see Chris Paul in the NBA Finals at the sideline in OKC. Chris Paul is very close with SGA. He's very close with SGA's wife and knows his family and all that stuff like that. They got extremely close. And you can tell Chris Paul really helped develop SGA, and it shows this season, bro, because he took that next step this season. But yeah, here's this tweet right here. Chris Paul just announced the 2025-2026 season will be his last. So let's look back at it and see what he's accomplished in his career. So he's second all-time in assists. That's crazy, bro. Second all-time in steals. Top 15 all-time in games. And I guess that's games played. I'm pretty sure that's probably postseason as well as regular season combined. 12-time NBA All-Star. 11-time All-NBA. 6-time steals leader. So yeah, man, this guy Chris Paul, it is a little bit sad that he wasn't able to get a championship, but Chris Paul is going to be wrapping up an all-time season, right? All-time career. I mean, obviously, without a doubt, Chris Paul is Hall of Fame, and this is going to be the wraps. I still don't think that he's going to be able to win a championship before he ends his career, and that's a whole other conversation, man. There's so many players that I wish or would have at least got the opportunity to win a championship that I don't think are going to win. I think on that list, James Harden is going to be on that list. I think Russell Westbrook is going to be on that list. I also think James Harden, Russell Westbrook. I think there's a couple players on that list. Oh, Paul George. I don't think he's going to win a championship. I don't think Joel Embiid will as well. Unless maybe Joel Embiid, if he gets like traded to like a team where he's kind of like a backup because of his injuries or whatever like that, or he's like more of a supporting role. Kind of like when Dwight Howard eventually won his championship when he was in the Los Angeles Lakers. But I don't think that Chris Paul is going to end his career with another title, man. And that, I think that sucks a little bit because Chris Paul at this point is essentially basketball royalty. His IQ and what he brings to the game is amazing. But what I think that Chris Paul will eventually become a coach. I think Chris Paul will eventually become an NBA coach over time. And I think that he'll eventually be able to win his first championship as a coach. Because I don't see Chris Paul stepping away from the basketball at all, bro. This guy, you can tell he loves to mentor these young dudes, and being able to see the step that SGA took this season after he was mentored by Chris Paul, and to see the step, and I'm actually excited to see the next step that Wemby takes as well too. He definitely learned a lot from Chris Paul. So I think in that case, like his mentorship for a lot of these players, I think that Chris Paul would be better suited just to become a coach and try to win a championship that way. So yeah, hopefully he does that, man. But shout out to Chris Paul, man. That's a long career, crazy accomplishments. Again, second all-time in assists, second all-time in steals, top 15 all-time in games, 12 all-time NBA All-Star, 11 all-time All-NBA,